Looking at this out of focused image, I'm pretty confident that most people could tell me where in the world this was taken.
And I'm not going to leave you in suspense because you clicked on this video because you have somewhat of an interest in Machu Picchu.
We've all seen various versions of this image all over our Instagram feeds. But if you take a step back,
literally a step back behind the camera, this is what it actually looks like at Machu Picchu.
I was here in Machu Picchu in 2018, along with 1,578,030 others in that exact same year. And I also took that exact same photo. Machu Picchu truly earns its place as one of the new wonders of the world. But a lost Inca city built in the 15th century in a valley that is prone to earthquakes,
with 1 million plus tourists visiting each year, doesn't sound like the best combination.
Like everyone, I was absolutely overwhelmed by what I was seeing. But at the same time, I couldn't help but notice the crowds of other tourists around me.
Like, I never envisioned them here when I was gazing at photos of Machu Picchu on Instagram. It was just me.
So this isn't a video on why you should avoid Machu Picchu or me bashing you for going or wanting to go. I was there, I always wanted to visit. You can see from my face here how incredible it is.
Nevertheless, millions of us visit Peru each year. Maybe not this year, with everything going on. And its biggest pool is Machu Picchu, but Peru has so much more to see. So I'm gonna break down what makes this country so unique and share with you some places that you should visit in Peru that just, in my opinion, knock Machu Picchu off that #1 spot.
Peru is an incredibly dynamic country on the west coast of South America, providing an extraordinary mix of climates and cultures, with deserts between the Pacific and the Andes Mountains, highlands with peaks soaring to 200,000 feet, and the subtropical Amazon rainforest, which covers 2/3 of the country. But it's here within the Andes Mountains where Machu Picchu sits. The Inca citadel was only internationally recognized when an American historian brought it to the wider world's attention in 1911. Then in 1981, it was declared a Peruvian historical sanctuary.
And a UNEA. How do you even say that abbreviation? United Nations Educational, Scientific and Cultural Organization.
Those guys, they declared it a World Heritage Site in 1983.
So there's been concerns about tourism in Machu Picchu for years, and the UN people famously threatened to put Machu Picchu on a list of World Heritage Sites that were in danger
over fears that overcrowding could damage the structures.
As a result, the Peruvian authorities put a limit on the amount of people that could visit Machu Picchu each day, splitting it into morning and afternoon sessions, and you can only go if you have a registered tour guide with you.
There's no souvenir shops and there's no like toilets and touristy stuff. It's all as natural as they can keep it.
However, on average, the site receives 5,000 tourists a day in the summer months, which is double the UN's recommended limit.
Around 10% of the country's GDP comes from tourism. Peru has the largest tourism sector in all of South America. Similar to countries like Italy, tourism makes up an important contribution to their economy.
I made a whole video on the issue of mass tourism in Venice itself, and it's linked up here if you want to see that video. So it's evident that more and more people are visiting Peru, and with sites like Machu Picchu clamping down on the amount of people that actually enter the site, there might be a chance you might not even be able to get in when you visit. But regardless of your situation, Peru has so much more to offer, so let's get into it. Peru's landscape is just magical. And it can completely vary depending on where you are in the country. Remember how I mentioned Peru has an extraordinary mixture of climates? Well, let's get into that a bit more, because 60% of the country is covered by the Amazon rainforest.
There is limited road access and some areas are only accessible by plane or boat. You then come to the Andes mountain range, which covers 30% of the country, and the final 10% is the dry desert coastline. You might be wondering why the coastline is so dry, even though 60% of the country is covered by luscious rainforest.
Well, I'm not going to try and break that down. That's something that Aspect Science would do really well at. But simply put, it's to do with the rain shadow effect.
Which essentially means the clouds that are carrying all the moisture from the rainforest get trapped in by the mountain ranges, leaving the dry air to blow out to the west. And then you get something like this. This is an archaeological site about 40 kilometers outside of Lima. Lima is the capital of Peru. It's where we flew into, and after an incredible 24-hour layover in Lima, I gotta pack up this hotel room because we leave first thing tomorrow morning for Cusco. Wow. Cusco is a relatively small city located here in the Peruvian Andes. It sits at 3,400 meters above sea level. So we made it to our hotel in the mountains. We have coca tea to try and help us acclimatize, but it's like, tastes like meat and grass. This is, I don't even know if this is straight. This feels so weird. We've gone to the altitude of 3,000 meters and like, it feels weird. It feels so lightheaded. It takes like a day or two to acclimatize to this. This is gonna be interesting. Like literally holding this camera hurts. So yeah, it takes a bit of time to acclimatize to the altitude, hence the coca leaves and these really dodgy, shaky clips I have. I don't even remember half of it. It's also the most visited city in Peru, second to Lima, because it's here where everybody acclimatizes before they head off to the majority of Peru's famous locations. The Inca Trail and Machu Picchu are about 73 kilometers from Cusco City. Now, I don't particularly love being in crowded places, but we just decided to make Cusco our base whilst we were traveling around the mountain regions, and we just embraced the city, and it's beautiful. Okay, so you're in Cusco, you've climatized. Where can I see these amazing mountains and lakes and temples and markets and experience all of these things? Don't worry, I've got you. Well, this is what we did. We drove 50 kilometers north. Also, some of you might be wondering why I'm talking kilometers, and I don't really know. I run a lot and all my runs are done in kilometers, but I'm in the UK and we use miles, and it's a weird in between. It's not really that important. You can do the conversions yourself. But what is important is that you visit the Sacred Valley. It's 50 kilometers north of Cusco and stretches for 60 kilometers. And like most of Peru, it's famous for its natural beauty. We just spent hours driving through the mountains, through these little villages. The reason I started making films was when I was on a trip in Switzerland. Switzerland's like one of my favorite countries in the world, mainly because of mountains like this. So do I need to say again, Peru's landscape is ridiculous. I can't make a video on Peru without talking about the Incas and what they left behind, because it is ingenious. The Inca Empire's administrative, political, and military bases was in Cusco, hence why so many people visit there and there's so many sites around it. So here are some Inca sites that we visited that are a lot quieter and a lot more easy to access than Machu Picchu. And a quick side note, you will have to buy a Cusco pass to enter some of these sites. It's kind of confusing. I will link a detailed article below if you are interested in going and picking up a pass. I think it was around £30 for 10 days to visit as many sites as you want, but don't quote me on that. Check the link below if you're interested in doing that yourself. Anyway, check out Marais, which is in the Sacred Valley. An Inca site known for these round concrete terraces built into the valley. And my favorite town and site in the Sacred Valley was Ollantaytambo. It was so quiet when we visited in mid-June, no queues. We just hiked this incredible ruin and looked at these views.
We're like, I don't know, 1/10 of the way up and we're already out of breath. The altitude sickness is crazy.
And whilst you're in the Sacred Valley, you have to visit these salt flats. There are like thousands of these salt pools that were made by the Incas that are just stacked up along the hillside. You can walk along them. It's very unique, and then you've got a beautiful view of the mountain range in front of you.
Part of Peru's charm is its culture. As of 2017, the rural indigenous population made up somewhere between 25 to 30% of the population. But we actually got to spend a little bit of time with some of these indigenous Peruvians who lived right here. But this family in this very small village took us in to feed us early one morning on our last day in Peru just before we hiked up Rainbow Mountain.
Yes, Peru has a Rainbow Mountain. Now, in my opinion, this is a must-do when you visit Peru. if you feel fit enough to make the climb. We had to drive about 4 hours from Cusco through the mountains to where we would start the hike. The total distance from the car park to the peak is around 7 kilometers. Now you might be thinking, a 7-kilometer hike, easy, right? Wrong. So you start the hike at 4,480 meters above sea level. Now remember, Cusco sits at 3,400 meters, so you're already 1,000 meters above that. Even on the drive up in the car, we were feeling the altitude sickness as we were just climbing through the mountain. So that's your starting point. And the summit of Rainbow Mountain is 5,200 meters.
For some context, Mount Kilimanjaro, the highest single freestanding mountain in the world, is 5,895 meters.
That's just a 695 meter difference. Rainbow Mountain might be a short, simple terrain hike, but altitudes of 5,200 meters is no joke. It took us about 3 hours to hike up the mountain.
That is the top. Not far, but this is hard. Every breath and step, it's just killer. This is a final push. It's just there. We made it. We made it to the top. Do you like my new attire?
So if you think you can cope with it, then it's totally worth the payoff at the peak. It affects everybody differently. For me, I struggled pulling myself up the mountain, but when I could see the summit, something just kicked in and I felt overwhelmed with energy, whereas other people in our group, they felt fine on the way up and had a really rough time on the way down.
They also have donkeys that can help you up and down the mountain if you think you need that. So if you're gonna go, I would say start early, because in recent years it has become really popular with tourists. I think we left Cusco at like 3 a.m. and we were on the way down the mountain by 11 a.m. So do your research properly, come prepared, and take your time and enjoy those views. Now, realistically, when will you actually be able to visit Peru? I don't know. Given the current outbreak of COVID-19, the country's officials have announced from July they're actually giving free admission to Machu Picchu for selected Peruvians, with the aim to boost the country's domestic tourism, as they anticipate to lose around £3.2 million in 2020 due to the outbreak.
And on the topic of tourism in countries and how they've been affected by coronavirus, well, that's what I'm going to be looking into in the next episode. So
hit the subscribe button for that video, it's coming soon. But to sum all this up, and to be honest, when I was putting this video together, I was looking around on Google Maps and I was just finding so many other beautiful rural locations in Peru that I would love to just visit. There's so much that this country has to offer, and the Machu Picchu experience is there, and all those other sites that I recommended to you. But what I treasure and take away most from my trip in Peru is the inherent charm of the landscape itself. Thank you for watching this video and making it all the way to the end. I imagine there's a good portion of people watching this video who either live in Peru or have visited Peru themselves. And I'd love you guys to put in the comments below places that you visited in the country that you loved, so we can use that section as well as this video as inspiration for people who are looking to go in the near future. If you're new around here, my name is Andy. I make travel explainers from cities and countries all around the world that just really fascinate me. And yeah, if you enjoyed this video, give it a like and remember to subscribe, hit the bell, all these things. I'm told they help. And yeah, I gotta go. Thanks for watching. See you later.